you're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day. Or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help.
The FHN network is sponsored in part by Hoddle Services. If you're looking for a disc jockey, karaoke host, video jockey to videographer, our company can help. With over 20 years of experience, we would be happy to help with your special event within Ontario, Canada. You can contact us at 226-988-2895 or visit us at our website at hoddleservices.vpweb.ca. That's HODDLE Services. We look forward to hearing from you and helping with your special event.
Turn it up and up and up. We want it louder. Up and up and up. Turn it up and up and up. We want it louder. Up and up and up. We're gonna get the music rocking, gonna get the body jumping, wanna get the party popping round here. We're gonna get the wall shaking with the noise we will be making, gonna get the party pumping round here. Cheers, we fear no beer. To all my brothers, sisters, and here we say, hey, hey, cheers. Ah! Playoffs, baby! Playoffs!
Yes. Oh my
Welcome,
God.
everybody, to another captivating episode of the Smoke Show with Dark Guy and Drury. I'm Leafs Maz 20, Dark Guy, Jason Maslico. Hey, you, whatever you want to call me. And my co-host, as always, Ryan Drury. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm great, man. My ears feel fantastic after that intro. I hope nobody else watching the show is wearing headphones right now. That's great, man. You're looking a lot more playoff ready than I am, despite my background, which is still all hockey, by the way. I wanted to do the show out here in my den because, of course, we're filming this on night of game 2 of the Capitals Bruins. If it was regular season, I would sit in the other room with all my collectibles, but it's playoffs. I don't want to miss a second. So I'm out here, but man, yeah, we're fired up. It's playoff time. You, of course, have to wait 3 more days for some friggin' reason because the NHL just can't ever seem to get anything right with scheduling. It just makes absolutely no sense. That's neither here nor there. It's playoffs. It's already been unreal. The games that we've seen have been fantastic. And despite the NHL doing everything they can to take away from their premier tournament, there's just nothing better than NHL playoffs.
I couldn't have said it any better, Ryan. We're 2 days into this. Night 3 is about to kick off there in a couple minutes with some puck drops on some games. But we've already seen some big OT goals. We've seen some highlight reel saves. Records being broken with Marc-Andre Fleury becoming the first goaltender to dress in 15 straight postseasons. That's absolutely asinine when you really stop to think about it. And hey, you even had some controversy with a Sam Bennett suspension. We're going to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm trying to collect my thoughts here because that is the positive thing about the playoffs is so much is going on, especially in the first round. The first round of NHL playoffs is the greatest playoff scenario of any pro sport. And I watched them all, even soccer, all of it. NHL playoffs first round is the best. There's games every night. It's incredible. If you want to start with that, yeah, we knew as soon as, the standings were finalized that we were going to get for the first time the Battle of Florida. Tampa Panthers at the end of the regular season, that last game they played, oh my God, that was chippy. Pat Maroon completely lost his mind. there were some of the most gutless things after the whistle I've ever seen in my life. Thank God Tom Wilson doesn't play for either of those teams, or he would have been shot. Spears, elbows to the face, sucker punches, like insanity. And their game one gave us all that and more, including a pretty questionable hit by Sam Bennett. I'm not sure how Ryan McDonough escaped suspension, or in the very least getting kicked out of that game for the brutal hit he laid. I can't remember who it was he hit, but that was a disgusting hit. That series is just full of South Florida venom.
Yeah, when you think of the rivalries or series ones that you could expect to boil over, you might want to look to an original six matchup like the Maple Leafs and Canadiens. I don't think I would have had Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning at the top of my list, but that's the great thing about the playoffs, that you need to set a tone right away. Game one, you need to establish certain things. But I want to preemptively say this: that charge, that charge by Sam Bennett, I don't think I've seen a worse charge. Like it seemed like watching it from like the overhead view. I know this is an exaggeration, but it felt like he did like 2 laps around the rink before he went for him. Like he just beelined it from 3/4 of the way off to the other side of the rink and didn't stop. Like there was no letting up. He just went. That being said, it's playoffs. I'm not going to condone that hit because it was clearly in the numbers from the other side of the rink. However, you take a late shot at Alexander Barkov, your head best be on a swivel. Now, again, I'm not blaming the victim here, but if you're going to take a late shot at your opposing team's superstar, you best not be going face first into the glass because somebody's coming. You have to know that, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's one of the things that that whole diatribe you just said there is one of the things that I'm starting to kind of just get fed up with in hockey. Not that it happens, but like obviously I don't want guys getting hurt, but the infighting around it on social media, because everybody becomes a player safety expert when these things happen, especially when my boy Tom Wilson does it. But I don't know about you, Dart Guy. And again, guys, I'm trying to take literally my Homer cap off here. I'm not trying to defend Tom Wilson in any of the terrible things he deserved to be suspended for that he's done. But I don't know about you, but I watched that Florida-Tampa game, which was by far the roughest game of the playoffs so far in its infancy, and went, boy, I see an awful lot of similar scenarios happening, similar to that New York Rangers Tom Wilson incident where Panarin got thrown around. That happened 400 times in the Panthers Lightning game. There was a scrum after every single whistle after the first period. There was a scrum after every whistle. Someone had to be separated. And oh my God, the sucker punches were like on 11. Like Barkov, I can't remember who it was on the Panthers that fell after Sergachev gave somebody an extra shot in front of Vasilevsky, and they took Sergachev down to the ice and just suckered him. Like it was vile. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, I can't imagine the outrage that would be present online if it was Tom Wilson doing any of this stuff. He apparently is the only guy that you can criticize, again, having known that he's done some very questionable things in his career. But, he throws Panarin around the other night and people were ready to swing a sword and take his head clean off his shoulders. And it happened like 700 times in the Panthers Lightning game, and everyone was going, boy, what a great, intense playoff battle we have here. Boy, isn't this great? It's like, do you like physicality or don't you? And at the end of the day, guys, all I'll say about it is this. The only way that there will ever not be scrums after the whistle and guys getting suckered and guys getting hit high and retaliatory punches, whatever, is if they make hitting illegal. So if you sign up to watch this contact sport where physicality is allowed, I'm not saying that it's okay to go out and have your elbow up like Gordie Howe in the 50s and take guys' chins off. Knowing what we know about head injuries now, that's obviously not okay. But the freaking out after everything, and especially if Wilson does it, which I get it, he doesn't deserve any benefit of the doubt. But Ryan Reeves, whoever, any big tough guy that's bigger than 6'2", anytime that a scrum like this happens, people, like to freak out and whatever. Hey, man, hitting's allowed in this sport, and guys are going to lose their temper. And until they just make hitting illegal, this kind of stuff is going to happen. It doesn't make it right, and guys should be suspended. And absolutely, I can't believe they gave him one game. That's the other thing we got to touch on. The NHL rulebook, I don't care what anybody says, it completely changes in the playoffs. The slashes, the spears, particularly in that Tampa game, there was stuff that you'd get ejected for or should be ejected for in the regular season that we let it go in the playoffs because it's all part of the battle. Well, then release a different rule book and say, hey, this is the playoff rule book, because that's how they let it go.
Yeah.
And stuff like this happens and it gets out of hand. And now Sam Bennett only gets a game because playoff games are worth 3 regular seat, whatever. It's stupid.
Let's keep in mind Nazem Kadri received a 3-game suspension and then a rest of the series suspension for hits that were nowhere near as blatantly.
Oh my God,
atrocious.
Not even close.
So,
guys, if you haven't seen the Sam Bennett hit, you gotta look it up. If you don't know what we're talking about and didn't watch it, you gotta see it. And Leaf fans will for sure be mad because they'll see that and that's exactly what I thought was, oh my God, Nazem Kadri kind of jumped into a guy that saw him coming. Doesn't make it right. And I agreed with his suspension at the time, but then you turn around and Sam Bennett just kills a guy from behind, which is so gutless.
He started skating like 150 feet away.
I thought he was in a speed skating competition. I thought it was like a promotional thing for an auto company or something.
Right.
That's
God. Where the hypocrisy comes into play. And you know what? The last year, I've been a whole lot more vocal against player safety and the inconsistencies. And I think to a certain extent, if you didn't know me well and you were watching my social media, you might think that perhaps I'm somebody who's against the physicality in hockey. And that is not the case at all. What I want to see is the consistency. And you know what? We've heard so much about Bettman over the years about TV deals and trying to grow the game in the US and blah, 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 blah. Playoff hockey, I don't care what anybody says. In my opinion, and if anybody's opinion is different than what I'm about to say, you're wrong. Playoff hockey is the most entertaining any sport will ever be at any time.
Yeah, agreed.
So if you want your ratings, to climb, call the games in the regular season. And I know that's a tall order in an 82-game season. But call the games the same way. I don't want to see a separate rule book like you're suggesting. I want to see.
I don't either.
No, I know. But I get what you're saying. But what I'm saying, let them play the same way throughout the season that you're going to let them play in the playoffs. Let them play, because then you will have to build your team for success for the whole thing, not just for what might happen in the playoffs.
Yeah, or you can just store $10 million players on LTIR all year and then bring them back even though they were healthy 3 weeks ago for the playoffs. So that's a cool thing to do too. That's a whole other thing. You know what, guys? Everybody is screaming online right now as well about the Tampa Bay LTIR thing with Kucherov and Stamkos. I agree. Yeah, something should be done about it. But for right now, it's legal. The Blackhawks did it a few years ago with Kane. Then they had that whole mysterious Marian Hossa illness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not like Montreal's not doing the exact same thing. You're telling me all of a sudden, Weber, Tatar, Gallagher, everybody's suddenly healthy again. Price. Just like that. All on the same goddamn day. It was like Jesus walked through the dressing room and just healed everybody because it's a miracle. They're all ready to go.
Yeah, I agree with everyone's sentiment that it's a weird cap workaround, and I guess something should be done about it. At the same time, though, I got to be honest, I really hate the salary cap and the way. I don't disagree with, I guess, the necessity of it in a sense. What I'd rather see, and this more pertains to something like baseball and basketball too. I'd rather see a hard salary floor than a hard cap. Because if you're going to have a scenario like this, where teams like Tampa, teams like Toronto, teams like Washington, teams like Pittsburgh, Chicago, that are really good and do a good job getting talent, either through the draft or through good trades, and you punish them in this system, I actually don't really have that big of a problem with this little, loophole tinkering around. Of course, the Leafs made it famous with the Clarkson thing and Robidaw Island, and all right. But I don't really have a huge problem with that. I don't have a giant problem with them stashing Kucherov over here, even though he was definitely healthy enough to play 2 or 3 weeks ago. Is it a little shady? Yeah, but the salary cap is so restrictive. And I've said for years they should come up with some sort of like franchise tag thing that the NFL has, something like that.
Luxury tax, maybe like in baseball.
Sure, like to a degree. Maybe that's what you do. Like with the LTIR thing, maybe that's what you do. If you're so far over it by, I don't know, $5 million, I don't know, set a threshold. If you're so far over LTIR and your team and roster is benefiting from the use of it competitively, like this Kucherov situation, maybe you pay not necessarily a fine, but some sort of luxury tax, or maybe it costs you a draft pick or something. I don't know. Like, who knows? That's for the powers that be. We can argue about it till we're blue in the face, but for everybody out there that's going, oh, I can't believe Tampa Bay is blah, blah, blah. If your team was in the same position, they'd be doing it too, and you'd have no problem with it. So just relax. Tampa Bay is still good without Kucherov. They're even better with him. I guess I understand why people are upset. It doesn't bother me that much.
Well, I think now you got it right. If you have a management team, a front office team that is put in the time, the research to figure out ways, the loopholes to manipulate and make it work for them. You know what? Don't be mad at Robidaw Island and the Maple Leafs, and don't be mad at the Tampa Bay Lightning. Be mad at your own organization for not having the wherewithal to figure it out first. Like
that's just sports, isn't it? Isn't that just an element of competitiveness?
Absolutely.
Some people would argue it isn't and go, oh, it's unfair. It's unfair. Again, I would surmise and say that if your team was doing it, you'd have no problem with it. I just thought that was part of sports. Some front offices suck. Hello, Buffalo. And some front offices are really, really smart. I'd like to think my team is one of them. I would say they are. They won a cup recently. Toronto's doing a great job. They literally they went and hired the guy that invented the cap. Like, that's just good. That's just smart.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What's the problem here? Get angry at your owner for not hiring smarter people. Yeah. Like, I don't know why that's like such a bad thing, but I don't know. People are angry about that, and they're angry at post whistle scrums, and this guy punched this guy, and I don't know, man. I'm just happy the playoffs are back on, and other people aren't arguing about Tom Wilson right now. Yeah, we'll see what he does tonight.
I'm jacked for the playoffs. We haven't done an episode of the Smoke Show in it's been 2 weeks now. You mentioned Buffalo, and I don't want to backtrack too much because what can we say about it already that hasn't been said? But
God,
Jack Eichel, what does it feel like to be a Buffalo Sabres fan right now? Where your team went out, you got Jack Eichel, everything was promising you had a future, and just a few short years later, Mr. Eichel is saying, wherever I play next year. Not talking about his future in Buffalo, saying wherever I may play. I mean, poor Buffalo Sabres fans. I actually feel sorry for them right now. For the first time maybe in my entire life, I feel sorry for Sabres fans.
Oh, just now after a decade of horrificness. Yeah. Geez. I don't have much to say on this other than, again, it's just a classic example of rich owners getting way too involved. Ask Jimmy Dolan what that's like. And just the wrong people running the operations of a hockey team. Now, like, I'm not going to lay any of this at the feet of Kevin Adams necessarily. I think that's unfair. But all of the regimes before that, I mean, absolutely. There's so many things wrong with Buffalo, and it's so bizarre, right? Like, it's really bizarre when you consider that the same owners that have invested heavily and done a great job revitalizing the Buffalo Bills, one of the most fruitless, I'm sorry, Dark, I know you're a fan, awful organizations over the last 20 plus years. They were, the results say it, to turn them around in the way they have by the way, the Pagulas like letting Brandon Bean and his staff just do it.
Yeah.
They won't do that with the hockey team. Like, they're so involved. It's bizarre. And now Jack Eichel's all pissed off, but the problems run so deep. Furloughing a bunch of staff. They're super rich. Don't know why you did that. Other teams did it too. I don't agree with it. They basically gutted their scouting staff. They're basically not scouting in Europe, which is odd. I don't know if you knew this, but quite a bit of good hockey players have come from Europe over the years. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. The Buffalo Sabres don't seem to be aware of that because they don't have their best defensemen's from Sweden, but no, we don't need to scout over there, right? And so they've gutted their scouting staff. The scouting staff they do have, I mean, no disrespect to any of those people personally, are horrible. I mean, look at their draft record in terms of finding some good players later than the second round even. Not good. No. Not good. And the other thing, too, is that all the general managers that they've had up to this point, and, Kevin Adams has been there for maybe a year now. We'll see what he does with this sticky situation that he's been thrown. Thought that the team was better than they were too quick. And you look at some of the free agent deals that have been signed in Buffalo over the last decade. Oh my God. And the amount of money, Christian Ehrhoff, Kyle Okposo, Taylor Hall, now Jeff Skinner. It's like, the results aren't good anywhere. You can't find any positives here other than Don Granato being a pretty good coach, it looks like. But
I wouldn't go. You're right. They do have some talent that they've drafted it, but it hasn't come outside the first, second round. But they're you look at some of the building blocks they have in a Jack Eichel and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who I think is going to be one hell of an amazing NHL goaltender one day. And unfortunately, it probably won't be for the Buffalo Sabres. So it's like they need to figure it out, whether it's they take a step back and give somebody the reins completely to run the team like they have for the Bills, which I'm very, very grateful for because, like you said, Brandon Beane and his entire staff there have done an amazing job.
Yeah.
Maybe they should just take that, some of their own advice and get out of their own way when it comes to the Sabres. But anyway, I don't want to talk about them all show. The playoffs has started. The Toronto Maple Leafs are lining up against the Montreal Canadiens for the first time since 1979. My birth year, greatest year on the planet. Yeah, I said it. I said it, Drury.
Well, okay. Yeah.
First time in almost 42 years. And truth be told, I couldn't be more psyched. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal to finally watch a Leafs Montreal Canadiens playoff matchup. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that for Montreal fans, it's only going to last 4 games. And then their season's done, but it's going to be an amazing 4 games regardless.
Don't say that. Don't say those things. Yeah, I'm excited for it on 2 fronts. I'm excited because on one hand, and we're going to dig into full series predictions for the playoffs here. We can still do that because all the series that have started are only a game in. And I guess we'll start with this one that for some reason doesn't start for 3 more friggin' days.
Don't even get me started on that. And it doesn't start till Thursday, and then they throw a back-to-back in there. Like
we can't talk about that because I get so angry, but it's silly. But I'm excited on one front because I really think the Leafs will win. And so one, I'm excited to see a beleaguered Original Six beloved franchise finally win a playoff series for the first time since 2004, which feels nuts to say, but here we are. But on the other side, and don't get too angry at me, but this is why we play the games. We don't know what's going to happen. We feel confident, but I'm excited also sort of to see the potential nuclear fallout.
Shut your mouth.
If Montreal wins this series. If Montreal wins this series, I don't know if there is help enough for people like you. I don't know. And I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this, but give me a glimpse. I don't want to do this, but just give me a little look in the looking glass.
Just be glad I have a glove on right now and you can't see what my hand is doing.
I'm aware, Andrew Ferentz, but but listen, if it happened, and hey, the team on my hat fell victim to this. 121 points that year for the Caps, up 3-1 against Montreal, and they came back and won, and then they beat Pittsburgh. It happens, and that's sports, right? If it happens, I don't know realistically what kind of therapy I could sign you up for on your behalf, because it's not going to be good. Like, think of just all of the darkness of not winning in so long. That's one thing. What are we, 53 or 4 years now? 4 years? 54 years.
Yeah.
So that's bad enough. But then to not even win a playoff series since before the lockout and the salary cap even existed, and then to have the numerous Boston things, Columbus last year, and Montreal beat their play-in opponent and got into the playoffs, which they never would have in a regular season. So much pain. If Montreal does this, Carey Price turns into 2010 Vancouver, or he wasn't there, 2014 Sochi Carey Price. I might need to drive to Barrie and pick your brain up off the floor. Like, this might not go well, but just to cut through the nitty gritty, Leafs in 6. I said Leafs in 6 on my show. Montreal will give them a bit of trouble. I bet you both Montreal wins are in overtime off of a bad bounce. The wins that the Leafs get, I think, will all come in regulation by 2 or 3 goals. They will outclass Montreal, and they will win this in 6.
I'm not even going to justify all your doom and gloom.
I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm not.
No, I get it. I get it. You're a jackass. I mean, a great friend. Thank you. No, I'm not even going to justify it because here's the simple reason. I'm not concerned. This is it's going to be a tough series. You say 6. I'm hoping 6. I can see it going 7 because when it comes down to it, Montreal is a hardworking team. Montreal is going to get pucks deep against Toronto. They're going to try and grind them down in the corners, wear the clocks down. They're going to try to rely, obviously, on Carey Price to keep the score down because when it comes down to it, Montreal's not putting in 4 or 5 goals every game. I don't care who's in net, whether it's Jack Campbell or Frederick Anderson, Michael Hutchinson, or my grandmother. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think they can. I don't think the way they have to beat the Leafs is simply by grinding them in the defensive zone and really attacking the Leafs' real only perceived weakness, which is the depth on their defense, which the Leafs significantly improved this year. So that's going to be tough. And that's why I think the Leafs, I'm extremely confident they win this series.
Well, again, that's where I was going since before you so rudely interrupted me.
Well, I apologize, but yeah, that's the only way Montreal can win.
So Montreal on the backs of a possibly well-rested, healthy Carey Price, on the backs of some inspired defensive performances, some grinding games where they're able to shut Toronto down. They might walk away with a couple games. They might make this series a little more interesting than a lot of people are probably thinking. And I will prefer to see a 5-game win for the Leafs, a 4-game sweep, but I just don't think it's going to happen. But when it comes down to it, you look at Montreal's season this year. They had a tale of 2 seasons where at the beginning of the season you had people like Brian Burke calling them the best team in the league and the best team in the North, and Jeff Petrie is the best defenseman in the NHL. Carey Price is the best goalie in the NHL. Blah, 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 blah. Make me frickin' puke. Well, guess what? They started the season. They weren't too bad. And then the wheels fell off. They fired their coach, and the wheels fell off even worse after that. But even when Montreal was, quote unquote, a juggernaut or playing well at the beginning of the season, Toronto still cakewalked them 3-1 in the first 4 games of their series. So even at Montreal's best this year, in 4 games against Toronto, at Montreal's peak performance with a healthy lineup, a healthy Weber, healthy Price, healthy everybody, the Leafs took the first 4 games of the series 3-1 at their best. So you know what? That's why I'm not going to entertain your what happens, what if, blah, 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 because even at Montreal's best this year, they couldn't touch Toronto.
Yeah. And those points are all valid. I don't think you should be worried. I don't think Leaf fans should be worried in general, other than the, long-standing bad things happen to us paranoia that exists. And hey, guys, it existed with me for an awful long time too. And I was lucky enough to see my team finally overcome that. I'm not going to say they'll win the cup, but for God's sake, I definitely think they're good to win 2 rounds here. And then let's flip a coin when they maybe reach the semifinals. But unless you have more to offer here, speaking of that, we could move on to another series because there's 8 of them.
The only thing that I would add into this is the NHL really needs to figure something out, because if Toronto does win their first 2 playoff series, they need to figure out how Toronto is playing in Toronto.
Yeah, that's the thing, eh? Well, any Canadian team.
How are you going to have a playoff series and give every single team the advantage of home ice except for the Canadian team?
Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm sure that they're going to, well, I'm not sure because this is the NHL we're talking about. And most of the marketing and or scheduling decisions they make are Bush League. But I'm hopeful, I'll say then, that they have something set within the next week or so, because we know that we're still in mass lockdowns here in Ontario. There's no way they're going to let people in the building, I don't think, even if they said, hey, yeah, you can play at Scotiabank. I don't think that the government is going to give them an exemption. They didn't do it for the Jays, and they've played a quarter of their baseball season. So I don't expect they'll do it for the Leafs. So there's been a lot of articles written, well, would Buffalo lend them their rink? And then maybe people that are Leaf fans that are close by, that are vaccinated, that could cross the border potentially, could go, because Buffalo's right there. Next to letting them play at Scotiabank with probably no people, that would probably be the next best option. But you're right. It's a sticky scenario. I don't even want to think about it right now, though, because it's so infuriating. And we could go into a whole political diatribe about the lockdowns and everything. I'm not going to do that. I just want to focus on knowing that there's playoff hockey on for the next 2 months and just leave it at that. Yeah,
you're right. We could dive into a lot of it because
we could get sidetracked.
I happened to be on the 401 today at like noon. Okay, at noon in bumper to bumper traffic.
Oh yeah,
Monday at noon during a stay-at-home order, there was bumper to bumper traffic, and I was doing 30 on the 401. So. Yeah, we could get sidetracked real quick because this stay-at-home order is really working well.
It's the best, isn't it? Hey, that's why they call it the 405.
You're right. I shouldn't have even thrown that out there. I am so frustrated with all this nonsense, just like everybody else.
Dougie, are you there?
Speaking of frustration, Ryan.
Yes.
Have you done an NHL bracket on like NHL.com for the playoffs or anything?
I haven't. No, I didn't do one this year. I completely spaced on it, but I'm assuming you have.
I did, but the funny thing was when I went to get registered to put my bracket on NHL.com, I was getting a little frustrated at that scenario. Now I don't know if I should take it as a compliment or and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I went to log in. I picked my bracket. It says select your name, select your username. So I put in Dark Guy, click. Username already gone. Dark Guy 1, click. Username already being used. Dark Guy, I put in like 15 different variations of the Dark Guy name, including like my LeafsMaz20 handle from Twitter and Instagram.
It's gone too?
And they're gone. I'm like,
oh my God, man, you have a bunch of imposters.
I don't know. I don't know if I should take it as a compliment or people are trying to make like horrible brackets and put them in my name or something. I don't know.
So then what are you then? Are you like Dark Guy 34,000 _ kitty cat?
It ended up being DA, real Dark Guy, the real Dark Guy.
Okay, so everybody knows now that that's actually your bracket.
Yeah, the one that says Da Real Dark Guy. And hey, so far so good. Out of the 4 series that have started so far, I'm 3-1 in my series winner taking the first game. So I took the Capitals over Boston because, well, screw Boston.
Okay,
that's the only reason.
That's good enough for me. Yeah,
forget the fact that the Washington Capitals, despite being torn down to Craig Anderson in net at the moment, are the much better team.
Oh my God. Yeah. Do you want to go there now? Is that the next series that we'll break
Well,
down?
we'll do that, but I'll just give you. So then I have the Islanders beating Pittsburgh in the first round. Vegas beating Minnesota in the first round, and then I had Tampa over Florida. So out of the series that have started so far, I'm doing okay, 3-1. I'm not too worried about my Vegas wild prediction because I think Vegas comes back and wins that series. But yes, let's go into the Washington Capitals and long storied playoff hero Nick Dowd coming through in overtime to rescue what could have been a disastrous game one for the Capitals.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? Is I'm frustrated because obviously there are teams that have had worse things to deal with this season, but I would argue of the playoff teams, you might not find a team that went through a more dramatic season than the Capitals. Think of all the crap they've went through. 4 superstar players, all the Russian guys getting suspended for hanging out in a hotel room, which other teams definitely did and didn't get in trouble for, and that pisses me off. So they missed games. Then you had the whole Tom Wilson suspension fiasco again with Brandon Carlo. Then you had the New York Rangers thing. Then TJ Oshie loses his father, who, I mean, initially we all thought Oshie scored that OT winner, and I'm not even afraid to admit it. I was in tears. I was so happy for him. But hey, he got an assist, and they've all got coach on their helmets, which is great. And then numerous times now they've had Ilya Samsonov, and Kuznetsov, who's supposed to be their number one center, on COVID protocol. I'm so fed up with Kuznetsov. He is gone. $7.8 million. He'll always be a hero for 2018, but I'm fed up with him. He's lazy. He will not adjust his bad habits.
And this is not the first time Kuznetsov has been in the media for the wrong reason as well.
No, yeah, we're all familiar with the cocaine incident after the Cup win, which he had to ruin, idiot. And basically, unless he comes back, and I don't believe he's playing tonight as we do this show on Monday, I don't believe he's playing. Unless he comes back and does 2018 things again and they go maybe to the conference finals, he's got to go. I'm fed up. $7.8 million. He does not supply the effort that's necessary for that. However, all that said, I thought the Capitals dominated game one. Like, Boston came on a little bit in the third. Vanacek explodes his groin. I hope the kid's okay. He led the NHL in rookie goalie wins, by the way. And 40-year-old Craigie Anderson has to come off the bench with his beautiful bald head and put in a heroic performance. Yeah. And he will be starting tonight. So we'll see what that's like. It's not like he's unfamiliar with the playoffs, but what an opening win. And I'll just cut to the chase. I don't have to talk about Ovechkin and Backstrom and all the veteran presence that we have on this team. I think the Capitals win this series, but it will go 7. It'll be another epic like the last time they played Boston.
Well, I tend to agree with you. I was looking at that series in 6, just because, like you said, the Capitals have the firepower to put the puck in the net. Doesn't matter if Rask is standing on his head or not. The other side to that is the Caps have the toughness to take some of Boston's game and jam it right down their throat.
Yes, they do.
And that is going to be, I think, the deciding factor in this. For as good of a player as
yeah, you can get there.
A player as Brad Marchand can be. We've seen in the past that, when he stops focusing on hockey and starts becoming a little more involved in the side shenanigans, the arguments between the benches, that sometimes he becomes less effective. And I believe that's something that guys like Tom Wilson and a Hathaway are going to be able to do, is get him off of his game a little bit. And in the end, I see it being a 6 or 7 game series. One thing I didn't like from the opening game had nothing to do with the actual game itself. Kelly Rudy.
Oh, God.
Kelly
I didn't want to
Rudy.
talk about this, but okay, go ahead.
Kelly Rudy, as a former NHL goaltender who should really frickin' know better, calling out Vitek Vanacek, or however you want to say his name.
Vitek Vanacek, yes. Good go.
For not being prepared and saying, I don't care. And this is paraphrasing, but I think I'm pretty close to what he said. He said that it was unprofessional, and that at the NHL level, a goalie should make sure they're properly stretched out, and this was his fault. Like, Kelly, first of all, it looks like you've been eating donuts for the last 10 years, so, like, calm down. The other side to this is he was a goalie. I don't care how stretched out you are. Things happen. Like, I was a goalie who stretched out, was meticulous in my pregame warmups and the amount of stretching and everything I did. And there were still times where in the heat of a moment, you tweak your groin or you tweak a knee, or it's just the nature of the position. So I was actually a little put off by Kelly, and I was trying to figure out, like, is this just like is this just about ratings? Is this just about trying to rub people the wrong way? Because it made no sense for him to go out there and call out Vanacek like that. Like, it's just, I don't know. I didn't like it personally. I think Kelly, as a former NHL goalie, should have known better. And I don't know. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I was really taken aback by those comments. I thought that they were misplaced. I thought that they were not well thought out. I would hope that he regrets saying it. I mean, I don't want, I wish no ill will toward the guy. I actually like Kelly Rudy. I appreciate his analysis, I would say 98% of the time. But I rewound it because I couldn't believe he said that. I was like, really? That's your take? Like, a guy gets, like, brutally injured, like, is so upset that he couldn't continue. It's his first career NHL playoff game. And, like, you think he basically insinuated he did it on purpose without saying that.
Well,
like, going, oh, this guy's not professional, and his stretching routine's not good enough. Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly. I didn't realize that you watched him stretch. I didn't realize that Kelly Rudy had a special camera in every goalie's dressing room stall. Amazing. Tell me more. I thought it was so
if he does.
Oh my God. I thought it was so stupid that he said that. And just now in his first career playoff start, he's unprepared and did a lackadaisical stretch, even though he led the NHL in wins by rookie goaltenders with 21. Yeah. Bad professional. What a bad professional. I thought that comment was heinously dumb, and that's all I'll say about it. Caps in 7. Who's next? Pitt, New York?
Let's do New York Islanders and Pittsburgh Penguins, because from what I've seen, I think I might be one of the few people, and I haven't looked at any of the experts or quote unquote experts predictions, but I think from what I've seen from my friends and whatnot, I might be the only person that's got the Islanders beating the Penguins in the first round.
Oh, you're not. I'm right there with you, but I think it goes 7.
I don't know. I'm looking at that Islanders team. I'm looking at a Pittsburgh Penguins team that didn't have Malkin for game 1. Yeah, you got Sid. They made some nice moves there. Bringing in Carter. That was a great pickup.
He's been great. Yeah.
I wish that would have happened. I wish that would have happened a week or two earlier, because I could have really used him in some of my dynasty teams that I still had a hold of him in. But yeah, anyway, that's neither here nor there. I look at that Islanders team, and I look at for me the X factor right now being, and I don't even care if Semyon Varlamov comes back right now. Sorokin, let him go. Let him play until it's not his net anymore. That's the way I would see that scenario, because Sorokin, I think you might see come in and do one of those things that sometimes rookie goalies do in the NHL and steal series. And Pittsburgh should know a lot about that, a la Matt Murray, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. And Sorokin, I mean, this kid has chops. I mean, I know people, you like to ride on the KHL, but I mean, it is a pretty competitive league, and he had unbelievable numbers over there, including really good playoff numbers. He didn't look phased at all by having to start. I thought he made some really, really nice saves, particularly in overtime. And yeah, I'm with you. I like the Islanders. I like them in 7. I'm never going to count out Sid and the gang. Malkin will come back. But I just think that the way the Islanders play and the suffocating nature under which Barry Trotz has his guys going, I think that ultimately they have a better defensive core, and I think that they will be the ones that grind the Penguins down enough to squeeze by in 7.
Of course. I mean, you know what? Sid's gonna get his highlight reel goals, like his one-handed freaking deflection.
Yeah, it was sick,
which was just ridiculous. Yeah. But yeah. I've got actually Islanders in 5 for that series.
Whoa, in 5, okay,
yeah. Absolutely. I think when it comes down to it, I agree with you fully. The style of play that Trotz has that Islanders team playing bodes very well for playoff success.
I agree, and I maintain that I think he's the best coach in the NHL. So yeah,
all right,
Islanders.
So Sid and the Islanders out of the way here. Well, I guess we can jump over to the one series I took a loss in the first one. You're the Minnesota Wild and Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, obviously really interesting series, given that I don't think, basically, I know I certainly didn't had the Minnesota Wild in the playoff picture, but Here they are off the back of Karil the Thrill, who is just, I mean, he's a lock for Rookie of the Year, isn't he? I mean, do we even have to debate that? And, you can whine about the age rules and all that. He's allowed to win the award. They are an incredible young up-and-coming team. I love Jordan Greenway. I love the way he plays the game. Yeah. Joel Eriksson-Ek, who was the OT hero in Game 1, he has developed into one of the best defensive centermen in the league. He is fantastic. He's going to be a Selke guy. Maybe not win it, but he's going to be in the Selke conversation for basically the rest of his career. And they've got great young defensemen. I love Dumba. I love what the Wild are about. I agree, despite them losing Game 1, I think Vegas is just too stacked. Mark Stone is going to wake up here. He almost scored a disgusting goal in Game 1 that would have tilted it, but I think Vegas wins, but I think they do it in 6. Minnesota, we've already seen and had the benefit of seeing before this show, their ability to push guys to the brink. And if you look back at the Minnesota Wild's history, they are playoff Titan killers. They did it a couple times to Colorado in the past. So don't write off Minnesota. They are well coached, and they've got a great young superstar. Ultimately, though, I think the veteran-laden and extremely deep Golden Knights get by them in 6.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that we're doing this show after Game 1, because now I can say Vegas in 5.
Right.
And probably and have a serious shot at maybe being correct. I had Vegas in 4 straight games. I was shocked to see Minnesota come out of the Game 1 with an overtime victory. I mean, mind you, it was a 1-0 overtime victory, so it was a little bit of a battle there, but
heck of a game.
Great game, absolutely. And I think if Minnesota's going to grind another one out, it's going to be another 1-0 game, maybe a 2-1 game. But I think that's it for Minnesota. Quite honestly, there's too much depth, too much experience on that Golden Knights team. I think this is just that first game loss was a little bit of a bump on the road to a 5 game win for them, 4-1. Is what I'm going with Vegas. Did Washington just score?
Washington did just score. TJ Oshie in front of the net. That's neither here nor there. It's 1-1. Yeah,
I heard you weren't just showing me your armpit.
No, I wasn't just showing you my armpit. No, I agree with everything he said. Vegas is too deep. Yeah, can shocking things happen in Minnesota, like I mentioned in the past? They've done it before. Sure, but I just don't think it's likely. And Vegas, they're just so good. They're so good. Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo on the same team. They've got 2 number 1 goalies, you could argue. I just think that they get it done, and they'll do it in 6. Who's next?
Florida, Tampa.
God, again, off the top of the show, guys, what a war this already is. I mean, the amount of disgusting things I saw after the whistle in game 1. I can't wait to watch the second game. And like that game was one of the best playoff games I've seen in years. It had everything. 9 goals, game winner with a little over a minute left, filthy goal too. Braden Point is so good. God, Tampa is just so stacked. Vasilevsky, despite it being 5-4, Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky both made ridiculous saves. Bobrovsky in particular robbed Stamkos on a one-timer. It was just amazing. And then just the hatred these teams have is amazing. 2 excellent coaches, 2 deep teams with lots of superstars on both sides, but ultimately Florida is going to have to prove me wrong in that they can take down the Titan. And I just think with Kucherov back fresh after his 3-week vacation, because he's definitely been healthy for 3 weeks, I just think Tampa's going to be too much. Give me the Lightning in 6.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's not to take anything away from Florida, but from the Panthers, but I agree with you. You know, Huberdeau had a freaking beautiful goal in that game too.
Oh, that was nice.
But
cheeky.
There's nowhere, in my opinion, beyond maybe, I was gonna say beyond maybe the top line, but even Tampa's top line is just that much a little bit better. Their second line is that much a little bit better, and then you start tailing off as you start getting into the depth a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Bobrovsky, while he has the ability, and he's shown it in his career, to be a Vezina caliber goaltender, while he has the ability to maybe steal a series, really hasn't been Bobrovsky in a year and a half now.
Yeah, he's.
So when I start looking at comparisons all the way up and down the lineup, it's like Tampa has the advantage in every possible scenario, and that might make for a couple, Florida might be able to make for a couple interesting games. But when you start checking off the boxes and they're all on Tampa's side, I just don't see how they could grind out a win. I've been wrong before. I never would have seen Columbus Blue Jackets humiliating Tampa 2 years ago.
Of course, but like everybody and their mom picked Tampa.
Yeah.
Like Columbus Blue Jackets fans were picking Tampa.
The only person or people that would have picked Columbus in that series were people with gambling problems who looked at the odds and were like, I'm taking a shot here.
Yeah, I think it was like plus 2,800 or something. It was like really lopsided. But yeah, it's again, you're right. Tampa, if you want to drop the first line and call that a wash, sure, because I respect the hell out of Huberdeau and Barkov and all of those quality guys they have. But it's the defense core really that pushes it over the line for me. And we just saw Tampa do it in a similar climate in the bubble where they're not doing that exactly this year. There's limited fans, but without all that even mattering, I just think that Tampa's roster is better. They have a way better goalie, a surefire goalie, where they're not kind of wondering, what's Bob going to give us tonight? They don't do that with Andrei Vasilevsky. So I think that they will get by their Florida brethren in 6.
Well, now here, interesting question, not to just stay on that series, is given Bobrovsky and the roller coaster, season that he had, if they lose game 2, when does Florida maybe start looking at going with Drager or Spencer Knight?
Well, it depends because Dreger still isn't completely healthy, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think you're right.
But I heard he wasn't far away. But if he's available, you would want him overnight, just because you don't want to throw a kid in there if you don't have to. But I think the only way that they yank their $10 million goalie out of the net if they go down 2-0 is if he lets in a couple goals that are so heinously bad and they lose by 2 or 3. I think that he has the net for the whole series, barring that happening. Because honestly, the 5 goals that went in on him, I didn't think any of them were like horrible, shake your head, you got to have that saves. Yeah, the winning goal, sure. Would you like a stop there on point? Yeah, but I mean, like the 2 power play goals Kucherov scored, those are rockets. Like what do you want him to do? So barring like an obscenely bad earlier this year, Bobrovsky, I don't think that they'll put somebody else in, but you never know.
Yeah. I just think when you get to the playoffs, like I said, for me, when I'm looking, I bring it up just to, in comparison a little bit to the Toronto Maple Leafs situation. Where,
yeah, you got to use your bullets.
Jack Campbell, who's what he's done since coming to Toronto is nothing short of impressive.
That's great. It is.
And if you look at the climate, in Leafs Nation, as we've talked about countless times over the years, people are ready to put up a statue of Jack Campbell on Legends Row, and pin a 20 to Frederick Anderson's chest and say, "Best of luck to you, kid." It's funny trying to look at it from a different fan base's perspective and see how other people may view that scenario as opposed to being in Toronto. Because the way I see it, kudos to Jack Campbell and everything he's done. And I am absolutely stoked to see him starting game 1. But for me, his leash is this big. With no playoff experience.
Yeah.
He should have a very small leash, in my opinion, but some other people are basically saying ride or die with Jack Campbell. Freddie should never play another game in a Leafs uniform again. It's like, man, I don't know. I do believe, and I want Jack Campbell. I want Jack Campbell to go in there, play so well that it's not even a question. It's his net.
Yeah, that's up to him. That's up to him, though.
Yes, but in the event that he stumbles, you can't hesitate in the playoffs. You can't hesitate to make that change if you need to. And that's kind of what I was getting at with Florida is given the fact that Bobrovsky's been like this for a year and a half now, what's his leash look like if he goes out and craps the bed in game 2?
It's a fair point.
I try to put that into a little bit of a different perspective, like from a different team's point of view.
It's a fair point, and use your bullets, right? And really, it's just I think at this time of year, it just all comes down to a gut feel, right? And hey, Joel Quenneville has done this before. Remember in Chicago, those 2 years, he was not afraid at times, particularly in that one Nashville series, to yank Corey Crawford out of there and throw Scott Darling in. And Scott Darling performed very well, got them through that series. Crow reset, and then he went back in, and they went on and they won the cup again. So Quenneville is not afraid to use his bullets. I just think, though, that I didn't think Bob played bad enough in game 1 to raise any eyebrows. Me personally, I really didn't. I thought that game could have been 8-4 Tampa without him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So unless he lets in some like real eyebrow raising, stinky ones in game 2, I don't know that he'll want to pull the goalie other than for that whole kind of, momentum changer for the guys. But if Bob played the way he did in game 1, I think he'll be in there in game 3, 4, whatever.
All right. Nashville and Carolina.
Such a weird series.
Right?
Such a weird series because no one gives Carolina any credit, even though they have the lowest paid coach, I think, in professional sports. And he just goes out there and grinds away, loves that franchise, obviously. Rod the Bod Brindamore. He would be my pick, by the way, for coach of the year. I like what he has done down there, getting paid, I would say, a disrespectful salary by
Yeah.
by Tommy Dundon is nothing short of incredible. They were first overall in their division. They are stacked. They have a great blue line. I love Bean. I love Slavin. I love everything that they've got going down there is awesome. And they're really deep up front as well. They're actually getting pretty solid goaltending from Petey Mrazek. You can't complain about what he's been doing this year.
Mrazek was lights out to start the season until he had that injury, right? So.
Oh, for sure. And on the other side of it, you've got these Nashville Predators who were a gong show the first half of the year. And everyone was like, fire sale time. Got to trade Yossi. Got to trade, well, not him, but Ekholm. We got to trade Philip Forsberg. We got to trade Arvidsson. Like, we got to just trade everybody. And then they got healthy, first of all. And then Saros settled into a starter's role. It is his net now. With all due respect to Pecorine. And man, they just turned it on down the stretch. They were excellent the last month of the season. Yeah. But I think Carolina's depth is better. I think their offense is more potent. And really, this comes down to which of these goaltenders can just be a little bit more solid. Would I want Peter Mrazek in net for my playoff team? Despite what he's done this year, not necessarily. Saros is a kid who's just now been kind of given the reins. He's been the heir apparent for a couple years. Can he just outplay Mrazek enough to squeak out a couple 1-goal games? Ultimately, I don't think so, because Carolina's power play is deadly and they're better offensively. I think Carolina will win this series in 5 games. I just don't think Nashville can skate with them.
See, I kind of see it a little bit differently in the fact that part of a lot of what you were saying there is Saros has settled into his game. Yeah. Nashville has been on an absolute tear to finish off the season. They do still have a very impressive defensive core themselves.
Yep.
In the Nashville Predators. I do have Carolina winning the series. I have that in 7 games. I just think there's too much going Nashville's way. If they're on top of their game, they've done. It's not going to be a cakewalk, I don't think, for Carolina. But on the flip side, I think Carolina has some of the most underrated players.
Agreed.
On their roster in the league. Like for me, if there was one guy. And some people might disagree with this because he's had a little bit of injury woes over his last couple seasons. But if there was one guy from the Carolina team that I could really go after, and I would say, you know what, that's a guy you have on your team to win a championship, Vincent Trocheck.
I was going to stop you and say, are you about to say Vincent Trocheck? Because I agree.
Absolutely love Vincent Trocheck. When he went to Carolina, I was just like, come on, really? Like,
I couldn't believe Florida made that trade.
No.
Honestly,
and it's like, when he went to Carolina, I just started having flashbacks of the Leafs losing to Carolina in the playoffs. And I'm like, damn it. Trocheck is a guy that can do that if we run up against them in the playoffs, right? Not that I'm really that worried about it because the Leafs are winning the cup this year. You heard it here first. But by all means, I absolutely love Vincent Trocheck. I think he is a guy that is criminally underrated by the rest of the NHL. And I think he'll be one guy that Nashville really needs to focus on to try and shut down and try and control, because he's a guy that can help that series go one way or another.
I'll give you one other guy too that plays defense there. I don't think enough people know how good Brett Pesce is.
Yes.
I think Brett Pesce is also criminally underrated on the other side of the blue line. I think that I would love to have that kid on my back end, man.
That's today's NHL and perhaps some of today's fan, right?
Yeah.
The Norris Trophy does not go to the best defensive defenseman. It goes to the one with the fancy points. And Pesce's,
unless it's a Washington Capital.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Poor Ryan. The Capitals and their fans are so hard done by.
Aren't we just? Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, it's a combination of having a lot of points.
Yeah.
And also,
and that's why Pesce's not going to get a ton of the spotlight on him for that very reason, right?
Yeah, because he's not Adam Fox, who can put up 60 and still look really good in his own zone with flashy skating, for sure. But Pesce's another guy that whole Carolina team, dismiss them at your own peril is what I would say. Absolutely. I will agree with you slightly, though, on Nashville. I won't be surprised if they won this series simply because they're playing with an awful big chip on their shoulder. Because I don't care what anybody says. Players see the newspapers. They see what's online. They definitely heard all the, Nashville sucks. They got to trade Ekholm. They got to trade for. They got to rebuild. Those guys heard some of that.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're going to, hey, those guys aren't, a small, wimpy team either. Like, they've got some snarl in that lineup. They're not just going to show up and let Carolina dangle all around them. So, there's credence to what you're saying. I still think Carolina wins in 5, but does anything shock us in the playoffs anymore? I don't know.
No, absolutely not. I think that's the easiest way to put it is the playoffs. Anything can happen. And now with anything can happen, Blues in Colorado.
This series I have a lot of trouble with. Probably the most out of any series, where all the other series, I kind of raised an eyebrow at it. I mean, yeah, you look at Minnesota, Vegas, you go, well, of course Vegas is better. And, you look at Islanders Pitt and you go, well, the Islanders, they play really good playoff hockey, but Sid's there. This one caused me to stare at the screen the longest.
Yeah.
I have no good read on this. Philip Grubauer is a guy that we've never seen have a good playoffs. And of course he was injured last year. Mm-hmm. Had a arguably Vezina winning season. Like, his numbers are fantastic. Excellent. Can he do that in the playoffs? Then you look at a Colorado team, very dynamic. Probably the fastest team overall in the playoffs. Burners out there. Makar, McKinnon, Rantanen. You got big Gabe Landeskog, former Kitchener Ranger, banging around in front of the net. You got Andre Burakovsky, who's found new life there. Nazem Kadri, of course, our old friend, flinging his stick around. But on the other side, you've got this veteran-laden St. Louis team that we just watched win the Cup a couple years ago with a more depleted blue line. Yeah, Alex Petrangelo's gone. Jordan Binnington has been a little shaky and has been losing his temper a lot, which, I mean, you don't like to see in your starting goalie. He's getting a little zany out there, but we just saw him turn it on as a rookie 2 years ago. It's inconceivable that he does it again. Ryan O'Reilly, one of my all-time favorite players, good Godrich boy, unbelievable center. Tarasenko's healthy. I don't know,
St. Louis is the team for me that is most primed for the upset.
Right, the quote-unquote upset. It's hard to even call it that because of what I just said, but
absolutely.
At my peril, will pick Colorado for sure in 7. I'll be disappointed if this series doesn't go 7. It's got that feel of 7. You know?
My Stanley Cup bracket is the Toronto Maple Leafs over the Colorado Avalanche.
What a cup final that. Could you imagine? Oh my God.
So that leads credence to, I do believe the Colorado Avalanche beat the St. Louis Blues. I think there is the most potential for everything you just said for the Blues to send the Avalanche home on a very disappointing note. I just think when it comes down to it, you look at the speed, mobility, and transition of that young Colorado blue line, who maybe some of the nerves, the inexperience might come to the forefront. I just don't see it. I think their transition game and the speed and the skill of the Colorado Avalanche is going to be way too much for the St. Louis Blues to handle in a 7-game series.
I
You
agree.
might be able to do it, like I said, in a couple of the other series, not to, be a broken record here. You might be able to do it for a game or two, but you're not going to contain them for the entire series. And for that reason, Colorado in 6.
Okay, yeah. No, I agree. I'll take the Avs in 7. I just think that, like you said, they have too much of a avalanche of offense at their disposal. And I just don't think that St. Louis can hang with that, especially with their leading scorer, David Perron, on COVID protocol. He will not be available for the first game tonight. So, I just think Colorado can overpower them with their speed and transition game. But, God,
Absolutely.
That series is tough.
In the end, fans in St. Louis are probably going to be singing the blues.
I think it's highly likely. Hey, they've got that nice cup victory to look back on very recently.
Oh, so. All these teams, all these fans looking into the past. Whoa!
What are you doing over there?
we won a cup years ago. Sounds like I'm doing a show with a bunch of St. Louis fans, kind of like Ryan Drury and his Caps.
Oh yeah, it was really long ago, man. Yeah, this tattoo ink is still drying. No, I know what you mean. Who's right, left? Who's left?
That's it.
No. Edmonton, Winnipeg. How disrespectful! Come on now.
Oh my God! How did I almost forget about that?
You forgot about McDavid? How dare you forget the prodigal son of oil country? How dare you?
I wonder how many Oilers fans watch this podcast, because that was a little for them.
It was a little intentional, you'd say. Hey, tie game again. Yay. Yeah, man. This is a tough one too, though, because you've got two teams that have different strengths. Now, based on Mike Smith's play this year and what we've seen him do before in the playoffs, albeit a long time ago, in dragging the then Phoenix Coyotes to a Western Conference final by himself. I shouldn't say that. It's disrespectful to the team that year, but
it's the truth, though.
And then it is the truth. And then Connor Hellebuck being on the other side, having a little bit of an iffy end to his year off of a Vezina Trophy win. If we're going to call the goaltending a wash, having said that, I think Winnipeg's defensive core is just as good, not as offensively dynamic as what Edmonton has on the power play, that big number one power play unit with Tyson Barrie, who looks, refreshed. And of course, Darnell Nurse has been excellent this year. Excellent. Edmonton's got that big top line. If they move Draisaitl around, which they can, and bump him down, that gives them some flexibility. Outside of Winnipeg's big top unit, I don't know if they're going to be able to stack up and score as much. Yes, they've gotten some great performances this year out of the Adam Lowrys of the world, Mason Appleton, guys like that chipping in, and you need that for the playoffs. But I just think that McDavid and Draisaitl are too freakish to hold off the score sheet enough. And if Mike Smith continues pushing that 39, 40-year-old body into 2012 Mike Smith, the way we've been seeing lately, I think Edmonton wins, but I also think this goes 7, and it wouldn't shock me if it was like a double OT thriller and it goes off someone's ass.
First series that you and I are going to completely disagree on.
But man, don't you want McDavid Matthews?
Absolutely, because track records between the two organizations and the two players individually have Matthews putting McDavid over his leg and spanking him like a naughty little boy. Mm-hmm. So I would have no problem with the Leafs and Oilers series, but it's not going to happen. It's going to be the Winnipeg Jets moving forward. for the simple reason that beyond those two extremely dynamic, extremely talented players in McDavid and Draisaitl, Edmonton is nothing. Edmonton's nothing. Without those two players, they're nothing. You shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, series over.
I don't know how you do that, though. Limit them, sure.
We've seen teams do it this year already. And if the Montreal Canadiens can be one of those teams that were able to, contain, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from.
And so here's the thing. If you can contain and control to a certain extent Draisaitl and McDavid, when I'm looking at I want to say Mike Smith is into his 40s, is he not? You said 39. I think he's already pushing 40.
He's certainly pushing 40.
Hit the search button here for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll look that up for you. He is 39 years old. He will be 40 later this year.
Okay.
That's pushing 40.
Yes.
That's pushing.
When I'm looking at Mike Smith and his same thing, I will say inconsistencies over the last year and a half. Versus a Connor Hellebuyck that at any point in time can just say, you know what, I'm closing up shop tonight. Nobody's getting in.
He's a better goalie.
Yes,
no dispute.
Listen, Edmonton's a very talented team. I guess on the top line, and their top defensive pairing is great.
Oh, for sure.
Beyond that, they do not have the depth to compete in the playoffs. I will eat crow if I have to, but I don't think it's going to be as close of a series as anybody else thinks. If Winnipeg comes to play and Paul Maurice has been able to come up with a game plan to contain their two top stars, I think this is a fairly, let's say, a fairly easy 6-game win for Winnipeg. There's going to be some pushback. McDavid can win a game on his own. Draisaitl can win a game on his own. So that's where you get to Edmonton's 2 wins. It'll be 4-2 for the Winnipeg Jets.
It's a fair point. Again, hard series for me to call. I won't be shocked if Winnipeg wins. I love Mark Scheifele. He's a great dude and just seems like a fantastic guy, fun hockey player to watch. I love Kyle Connor. I love Blake Wheeler. I like Josh Morrissey. I love Connor Hellebuyck. I just think that McDavid, what he did to the league, not the league, but the division he played in, like what he did this year, and Draisaitl too, point-wise, is just disgusting.
Well, and what you just did, though, what you just did there was you named off about almost 7 Winnipeg Jets that could have a profound impact.
Yeah.
On any one game. Beyond Draisaitl and McDavid, name another Edmonton Oiler that could have as big of an effect on a game as, say, a Kyle Connor.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Okay.
Ryan Nugent. I know everybody.
I'll give you that, but Nuge has only been a slight version of himself for a few years as well, right?
I know what you're saying. Yeah, he's turned into a little bit more of a defensive guy. That everybody thought number 1 pick, he'd be this offensive dynamic player, which he has the ability to be sometimes. Yeah, like, do I think he's as good as Kyle Connor? No, I absolutely don't. But it just depends on the situation that you're in. Like, he can shift over to the wing, he can play a bit of center for you. Then, of course, on defense, you've got Nurse, you've got Tyson Barrie, who can rush up the ice and seems to have fit in really well with that Edmonton team in a way that he somehow couldn't with Toronto, barring that, for a majority of the first part of his tenure there, he was under Mike Babcock. Yeah. And then Mike Smith. Mike Smith can also steal games. I've seen him do it all year with a 39-year-old body. And I think he could do it again. I just think what I watched, I know it's the regular season, but what I just watched McDavid do alongside his buddy Draisaitl, I just think that it's going to continue. And I could be wrong, and I'd be happy to be wrong because I like Winnipeg too. But Edmonton in 7.
Okay, so this is the one where we're going toe to toe. We're standing off. We're button heads. What's the bet here, Drury?
I don't know, dude. I don't make bets. Come on, man. I don't know. I don't care.
We'll have to figure something out off air.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can figure something out, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. I'm good. I'm good with whatever goofy prank you come up with.
Oh well,
don't make me eat.
We've covered the entire playoffs, all the matchups. I think that's it's gonna be a great playoff. No matter which way you slice it, it already has been. Like you said, it's been 2 days into it. It's been entertaining. We've had big saves. We've had some big goals. We've had a suspension. We've had controversy. And it's 2 days in. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's why at the beginning of the show, you got a jacked up dark guy screaming playoffs. Was it really that loud in your ear, though?
No, I was kidding, but it surprised me. I didn't know you were doing it, obviously, and it worked well. And again, to echo what you said, there's just nothing better than the NHL playoffs. Even for North Division fans that have to wait till Thursday for some reason, there's just nothing better. It's going to be great, and no matter who wins all the series, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, man. I can't wait.
Okay, we got a couple minutes here left in the show. Hart Trophy, go.
McDavid, and I don't need to explain why.
Yeah, if at this point in time, if anybody needs an explanation, you probably really don't watch the game all that closely.
But I'll say Matthews should be second on everyone's ballot, in my opinion.
I agree. What Matthews has been able to do in this shortened season, goal-wise, the way he's been able to carry the team, his consistency, the improvement in his two-way game, like this guy deserves every second place ballot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On every single voter's card. Anybody who doesn't have Matthews as their second place pick should lose their ability to vote in the Professional Hockey Writers Association, because
I won't go that far.
Absolutely I would, because I'm so sick. I'm so sick of watching some half-ass quote unquote professional writers who are very, very opinionated and biased against either in favor of their hometown teams or against somebody from like Toronto. They need to figure out a better scenario, because I could probably go out and pick out at least 10 voters right now that should lose their right to vote based off tweets and comments they've put out.
Yeah, of course. It's silly. And I agree staunchly that Matthews should be second. But, and I know you'll hate this, but if somebody wrote down Bergeron or Marchand, I wouldn't lose my mind over it, I guess I would say. But
I would.
But McDavid's the Hart Trophy winner, and Matthews, unbelievable. First Rocket Richard, won't be his last. Congratulations. He'll do it again.
Absolutely. Rookie of the Year, Calder Trophy.
Oh, it's Karil Kapperzov. The way that this kid skated into the league, yes, he played professional hockey in Russia. Yes, he's a little older than 18, and people hate that for some reason, whatever. The confidence and the swagger that he came into this league with, and some of the unbelievable highlights. This kid's hands are disgusting. He's the Rookie of the Year far and away for me.
Yeah, I can't argue that at all. I don't even see how somebody could legitimately make an argument for somebody else unless you're in that boat that because he played professional hockey in a different league and da.
That's stupid though. The rules say he's legal to be voted on, and if you just don't like it because he's 22 or however old he is, that's a stupid reason to not vote for him.
The bottom line is the NHL is the best league in the planet.
Yes, and he was the best rookie.
I don't care if he was 22 or 42.
End of conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
He was the best rookie.
Yeah.
Hang it up. It's over. Norris Trophy.
Boy, it's a tough one, but like Adam Fox and what he did this year, and I know the Rangers didn't make the playoffs and blah, 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 but man, I'm telling you, Adam Fox and the way that he can play D out there while transitioning into offense, while making an unbelievable outlet pass, while walking the blue line, playing the power play. You can't argue with what this kid did this year, and I'd be willing to bet this isn't his first Norris Trophy, and he's getting it from me, so.
Yeah, as I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, and this is not to say that Adam Fox isn't outstanding defensively.
Yep.
But as I alluded to earlier, I have very much not enjoyed how the award for the best defenseman in the league has turned into over the last 2 decades. Basically, who's your highest scoring defenseman?
Unless it's a Washington Capital. It didn't happen. It didn't happen last year.
Poor me and the Washington Capital.
No. I'm just saying it didn't happen last year. And John Carlson was doing statistical things that have been seen since 1993. Roman Josi had to win it because lifetime achievement, But yes, go ahead. I agree.
There is a gentleman we named a little bit earlier that I know he's not going to, but he's my pick. And that's Darnell Nurse.
Wow. Okay. There you go. Shea Theodore would be in there for me too.
What was that? Shea Theodore?
Yeah, he'd be in there for me too. That's a good top 3.
For me, it should not be just about points.
No, it shouldn't.
And from what I had seen, and out of Darnell Nurse this year, like he is tough to play against. He's in my opinion a great defensive defenseman.
He is,
but he also puts up points.
Yep.
And he's not going to get. I'd probably be the only one voting for him.
Maybe I haven't heard a lot of noise around his name, but in my opinion, he deserves to be in there. Absolutely.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. So it's like you. Yep. It's easy to look at the highest scoring defenseman and say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to put the top 5 scoring defensemen. Well, that's not what being a voter should be about.
No,
I
agree.
Looking at more than just the stats category. And I think if you dive right into dissecting the way people play a little bit better, their contributions to their teams.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think most people do. I think the only time where it should really be based on points more than defensive play is if the player in question is doing something so wild that we haven't seen it in so long. And if you want to argue with me about John Carlson last year, fine. Roman Josi's an unbelievable player, but the one that will forever chap my ass was when Mike Green didn't win and he scored 30 goals. Like, I will never live that down.
Yeah.
I was infuriated that night, but I digress. Darnell Nurse, great pick by you.
Vezina.
Grubauer. I thought Grubauer was fantastic.
We're going to ignore Vasilevsky's league leading wins.
I am.
Why?
I just thought Grubauer turned in such an unexpectedly fantastic season against a team that allows more shots than Tampa. Had to deal with some injury problems. Of course, Tampa did all year as well, but Kucherov's not a defenseman. And I just thought toward the end of the season, Vasilevsky dipped a little bit.
100%.
He was
another reason why some of my fantasy playoffs did not go so well.
I'll just say this, and I'm not going to, if you want to tell me Vasilevsky's the winner, that's fine. The best goalie in the league. Yeah. But for the majority of the season, he was first in expected goals saved, and then he dipped down to 4th off of a bit of a wonky last few weeks. Grubauer, I thought, was consistently excellent for a team that allowed more chances and more high-quality chances all year. I think Phil Grubauer should win the Vezina.
I think name recognition alone. I believe recency bias as being, widely regarded as the best goaltender in the NHL.
Yeah.
I think Vasilevsky walks away with it. If you're going to compare two teams, somebody could argumentatively say that the Colorado Avalanche are just as stacked as the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep.
So I think when you start comparing the two teams, which voters again really aren't supposed to be doing, they're supposed to be looking at the individual stats, and individual performances. I think Vasilevsky wins the Vezina just solely based off of name recognition and reputation.
I'm not going to fight you on that one. I wouldn't be upset if he won.
Do we ask about Lady Bing?
Tom Wilson.
Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
Next.
Exactly.
Masterton Trophy.
Quickly here. Oscar Lindblom of the Flyers. Everyone's familiar with his story. Diagnosed with a rare bone cancer, beats it, comes back, plays hockey again at the highest level in the world. Oscar Lindblom, for me, in my opinion, he, through his perseverance through a horrible disease, showed sportsmanship, perseverance, and dedication to hockey more than anybody else.
I know, and I can't argue against them. But Jack Campbell, former first-round pick, does not have the success in Dallas that he was expected to have. Tabbed as the future of their franchise when he was drafted, was 11th overall or whatever the case may have been.
Yep.
Bounces around for a couple different teams, bounces around in the minors. Not a lot of people would have had the perseverance to keep going and driving to chase down that dream, not give up on themselves. When, it's one thing to have that pressure when you come into the league, but when the word bust gets attached to you,
yep.
And people are saying, what a waste of a pick and the biggest bust in NHL draft history. Like he was up in that conversation.
Yeah.
He was up in that conversation. Not even
in terms of goalies,
not even close to a
Yakupov, Dag, Stefan. Yeah.
Yeah. But
no, it's a great story.
He was up there. For him to persevere, battle his way back, get a shot. This isn't the Arizona Coyotes he got a shot with. This was the center of the hockey mecca. He was at the Toronto Maple Leafs. He got thrown into what is, argumentatively speaking, a goaltender's graveyard because you can go from hero to GOAT in Toronto quicker than I think any other city, maybe besides Montreal.
Well, Philadelphia, but yeah.
Yeah, that too. But for what he did, and he came in and the numbers he's put up.
Yeah.
I believe, I don't want to take anything away from a freaking cancer survivor because I'm going to sound like a big dink saying it, but given the fact that what he struggled through and came back and the performance. So no disrespect to Oscar, but it's not like he came back and put up a 30-goal season.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I know you're not trying to like override his story, obviously, and you're valid in thinking that. I'd have Jack Campbell on my list. I would stick with Oscar, but that said, Jack Campbell's story is an extremely positive one.
Don't get me wrong, Oscar's winning.
I think so. I guess maybe because we are doing predictions, I should have just said Oscar's winning, but I would not argue a Jack Campbell win. Yeah, he's done an incredible job resurrecting what was almost a flame out career. I agree.
Absolutely. Well, I guess considering it is the playoffs, we've done our predictions for everything else. We'll end the show on your Stanley Cup. Who's winning the Stanley Cup?
And yeah, I mean, I guess this could change in a week. Vegas, I just think Vegas are stacked. I think it's their time, which is incredible to say. What is this, like their 5th year of existence? It's ridiculous. Vegas is my pick.
Okay, well, mine's the Leafs, and everybody, thank you for tuning into the Smoke Show. Join us next week when I'll be joined by my new co-host. I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be somebody who picks the Leafs to win the cup.
No, I'm not. It's not their time.
I can respect that, Ryan, because I respect you and your hockey knowledge. Just because I respect it doesn't mean I agree with it. Toronto Maple Leafs are winning the cup. It's our time. They're going to beat Montreal. Their confidence is going to grow, and it's no stopping Leafs Nation after that.
Here's hoping for you, man. I hope they do it for you.
Right on. Well, until next week, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Sorry about the 2-week hiatus there, but we're going to be back and at this every Monday night, 7 o'clock, running through the playoffs. Huge thank you to the FHN Network, SATV, for having our show and doing all the great things they do for us. We got to talk about that Huddle Productions. That Huddle Productions ad. I don't know. We need to talk how that DJ company slid that advertisement in there.
I wonder
without any royalties, but that's neither here nor there. Ryan, thank you as always as my co-host, Matt in the background, always making sure we look fantastic. Our producer, and last but not least, thank you to all the fans tuning in every week, making the show a success. Until next week, where there's smoke,
there's fire.
Make sure to check out our past shows from previous weeks on our YouTube, Facebook, or Mixcloud channels. You can always catch up on podcasts while checking out our FHN Network channel on YouTube or Facebook. Or you can listen to an audio copy of our past shows on our Mixcloud channel at FHN_Network. The FHN Network, the future of entertainment.